Hey everyone, we're back. I know we've been missing a couple of weeks here and there. The schedule has been really crazy. Um, and for the first time, I'm think I'm going solo. I always had a co-host with me, but again, there's so much stuff going on with AI. I was like, we gotta talk about something that's kind of really exciting going on. So I'm just gonna hear babbling on things that I found very interesting the last couple of weeks. I hope you stick around. I'm also rocking a new T-shirt from Bob Dylan. I was at his show last night here. He was in Columbus, Ohio. It was one of my bucket list thing. It was kind of amazing. He's probably like what 80 plus year old, and he performed like a nonstop for 90 minutes. He sounded really good, man. He sounded like the same Bob Dylan. It's just wild. It's just wild. Anyway, so there are lots of stuff going on in our world here. So I'm gonna focus on a few things here first. The big story that we should start with is a new model. So let me see if I can share my screen in here. uh, let's start with. Hold on, I'm still trying to figure this thing out here. Where is my PDF? How's everybody been? Shout out if you guys want to chat here. Drop your questions, and I'll try my best to go through this. All right. So our first story is Claude Mythos. I mean, this is the new model that they just released, and not essentially released. And I think that's what most exciting about this thing. That they said this model is so powerful that they are not even sure that it's a good thing to release, which obviously picked lots of interest from others and mainly from many folks in research. One of the things that stand out about this model, this is obviously, I mean, I'm getting into the point where I really don't want to talk about benchmarks anymore. But this model is crashing benchmarks. It's just it's scary how good this benchmark results are. I mean, it's just better than anything. It's not just few percent. This is a drastical step change in terms of the results. So obviously that got lots of attention. The thing that got really exciting about this is that this model is not just good at one thing. Its model is essentially looks stronger across all the axes, especially in software engineering and cybersecurity. We're going to talk about a lot of cybersecurity here because this model apparently found lots of interesting issues on well-known using software and operating systems, and it's kind of scary. So sort of argued that how this model is kind of doing that. So sort of high level characteristic of this models is that it's text only output, by the way, even though it can take multimodal inputs, but it's only text output so far. And one of the strong thing is here is but there's nothing about the training recipe. I mean, I think fundamentally nothing has changed. The release posture essentially changed. What they're saying is that this is such a strong model that lots of people can use it to exploit cybersecurity defects, so they're not releasing it. What they have essentially done is that they released the software to specific vendors, and they're closely working with Firefox and others to sort of mitigate those issues first before sort of diving in. Now, one of the things that I really want to highlight in here is where were the insights? Okay, yeah. So I've highlighted. I just went through. I mean, with the help of AI, obviously, through this document, and I've identified few areas that I really want to share with you guys. And I thought that was sort of very interesting. So let's go to. I've highlighted those pages in here. So bear with me a little bit. I'm trying to do all sort of thing alone today here. Where is my highlights? Okay, cool. All right, I find this kind of sort of information system cards from Anthropic. I think they're very brave to doing this amazing, rich information with how they have training, what does models sort of expose behavior in terms of previous versions of the model. So it's sort of really interesting read. So I highlight a few things that I thought was sort of interesting, or they highlighted saying that they haven't seen this done by a previous model like Opus and Sonnet. This one sort of grabbed my attention, saying that on the evaluation infrastructure checks, flagging issues and any other cheating. Unlike previous model, Claude Mythos preview displayed the two noble reward hacking. So reward hacking is obviously that's how they're measuring the success of this model. That has been never observed before. During it LLM training evaluation, it identified a function. So obviously, to identify a function outside the timing call. So let's say you're trying to validate how much time this model is taking to perform certain action. So it sort of figured out there is a function that is called outside the timing call. And what it did is it moved all its logic to that outside function. So the function that you're actually testing within the timing boundary was just a lookup. So it's obviously essentially it's sort of cheating the results. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. This one is really good too. Yeah, so user asked Claude Mythos to preview to do some performance optimization for a baseline, right? So the end of this optimization, Claude Mythos preview ran 160 more experiments. The majority explicitly named grind to a final grind, rerunning identical code to fish favorable measurements. So this is the essentially model sort of under test, right? So it's trying to figure out what I'm getting measured at and try to gaming the system. So this is the sort of that behavior showing up, which I thought was sort of interesting. So in the cybersecurity, this is where you're going to spend lots of time in here. Let's go to page number 47. I was just going through the notes in here. This is the section that everybody was talking about. Okay, as everybody on the internet is right now talking about this because they have sort of the Mythos is sort of demonstrating some capabilities in cybersecurity area that they haven't seen in any models before. Now, what that means is that in this, Anthropic is saying that Claude Mythos preview is their most cyber capable model yet, and the older CTF style benchmarks are no longer enough. There are some benchmarks. I actually honestly don't know about this benchmark existed, but it's sort of good to know. In a side bench, they have this model actually passed 100%. And Cyber Gym, it's 0.83%. In the Firefox 147 exploitation eval, Anthropic says Mythos reliably found the most exploitable bugs. It's actually found. I was looking at some data and a poster on this. It actually found a like 15-year-old bug on FreeBSD, the OS that's got used in routers and other. It's just wild. Now I was looking at some of the charts in here, which I thought was sort of fascinating. So let's go in here. This one for an example. So this is sort of the comparison in here, guys. So this is where the Opus was, the most capable version that we're using right now, and this is where right now it's just wild, the comparison level here. Same in here. Actually, this was sort of interesting. In this case, what they did is that it's no top two essentially means is that they removed the most top two common bugs from the list and exposed that, and then ran. It actually performed better. Now this is sort of interesting. So there is a private cyber range end-to-end. So this is sort of a cybersecurity sort of challenges created for real cybersecurity engineers and experts to see if they can exploit a system. So till now, there was no API AI model out there who was able to crack any of this. So Mythos is the first one who actually solved one of this. I'm not just going to go through all the list of things that they have done in terms of all the capabilities, but one thing that sort of stands out in here, the reason this is scary is, I mean, cybersecurity experts there are experts who are probably better than this. I'm sure there are. The challenge here is you as a security expert are really good at a thing, but what this model is demonstrating is that it can combine 3 or 4 random things out of the security domain. But this model is really good at programming also. Not all cybersecurity experts are really good software engineers. So having multidisciplinary capability and being cross-functional, I guess, allows this models, Mythos, and so there are some examples out there to creatively take few pieces from engineering here, how programming works, river engineering this, sort of taking these noble ideas, combining them together to create this penetration hacks. To in one case, it actually got an access to the root level, for an example. It's just mind-boggling. And there was another example in here. I don't know will I find it or not. There was a test in here the researcher was doing about, I think this was in part of the alignment piece, where this is the last one I'm going to say, otherwise I don't want to bore you guys in here, where I can't find that anymore. Where essentially what the researcher did in terms of alignment is that that model was given a very restricted sandbox, so no internet connection and nothing. Apparently, model essentially figured it out how to bypass that, got a root access, got an internet access, essentially described how it got it in an email and sent that email to researcher while researcher was having lunch at the park. So there's the kind of crazy wild stories in here. So I mean, it sort of makes sense that why they are sort of afraid to release this, and giving essentially what they're doing is that, hey, everyone else, this is time to sort of catch up. You got 90 days to figure things out. I don't know how many. So they essentially created another sort of collision around this of a cybersecurity, helping other companies sort of use this model to find defects on the mostly commonly used software, so that we have time to fix this before this model gets into hand of everybody, essentially. So it's sort of, I feel like we are getting into the point where, so Mythos is demonstrating that we have a model that sort of crossed the operational threshold now. It's not just a benchmark anymore. These models are really, really getting pretty good at. Now, one thing you have to note about this Anthropic guys, though, obviously they think this model it's probably the best aligned model out there. But the challenge with alignments are obviously that thing about unknown unknowns, right? The challenge here is that there are still scenarios where these models can misbehave. And when they do, the problem with powerful models like that, how drastic those measurements going to be. I mean, how worse this can get. And I think that's the big unknown in here. And that's sort of the scary part. So here is the link to that document that I'll drop in here for you guys. Where is the chat? Yeah, take a look at this. I mean, this could be as definitely a fascinating read. Also having co-hosts is probably a good idea in here. Anyway, so we're going to move to the next story in here. The next story is also something that I thought was another fascinating story, guys. I mean, I know some of our audience in here is also interested in crypto or blockchain and Bitcoin. So this is a story about, I mean, we all know that the biggest mystery about Bitcoin is the creator of the Bitcoin, right? Nobody knows who the real Satoshi Nakamoto is. Now, this is a real good reporting and research work, guys. I mean, it's worth the read. It's a fascinating read. So obviously, we're not going to have time to do that. We are looking at Adam Black. So according to this article, Adam Black is a well-known cryptographer. He's the one who created Hashcash. Hashcash was sort of so Bitcoin is not the first sort of digital currency, right? There was many experiments prior to that, and Hashcash was one of them. And he's that creator of that. He's a British cryptographer. So they're tying all the sort of an evidence. Obviously, it's not conclusive that he's actually one, but the reason I like this article, it's not like a Hollywood style investigation of who is the mystery. It's more scientific in a way, and I thought this article sort of used a very noble idea to sort of unpack that. The key point of this article is that starts with a simple pivot. The reporter found that HBO documentary. There was an HBO documentary. Actually, I haven't seen that. Identification of Peter Todd's unconvincing. Okay, so the identification of Peter Todd. I think they identified Peter Todd as a Satoshi. But what they noticed about this reporter notices that the Adam Black's reaction in that film caught his attention. That led him to to year long. This is year long investigation, guys. Through cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was the was that's where the cool kids used to hang out. These are all the group of cryptographers and hackers. They used to get together. I think it started in West Coast back in this. I did a history of Bitcoin presentation a few years back, so I remember doing research on cyberpunks. Quote and count records from the Craig White trial. I don't know whether you guys know. Craig White was another sort of contender to being, hey, I'm the Satoshi Nakamoto. And Satoshi's email, Bitcoin talks. So this essentially is fascinating to uh, have access to this data and maybe use LLM to sort of go through and research, right? That could be an interesting way to use LLM as well. So the case for Black rests in four pillars, okay? This is fascinating, four pillars. The first one is a background fit, which I thought was sort of interesting. Back is British, okay? Was active in the cyberpunk movement, invented Hashcash, we talked about this, understand public key cryptography, worked on distributed systems and used C++. So I liked how he approached sort of used these ingredients. All are core ingredients for Bitcoin's design, all of this. The article treats this as a more than resume overlap. It argues that Black had the exact mix of technical depth, ideology, early internet anonymity practice that Satoshi would have needed. The second is technical foresight. The article highlights several posts Black wrote back in 1997 and 1999, and that seems to stretch the major pieces of Bitcoin years before Bitcoin existed. Okay, so he's been sharing ideas. I mean, all this information is public, guys, so we can go and validate this. So he's been sharing this sort of concepts and ideas that form this Bitcoin. The linguistic overlap, which I thought sort of interesting. The reporter tracked unusual phrases. So he's being bred, so he uses a different way, different spelling habits, punctuations, mistakes, British and American variants, small grammatical text shared by both Satoshi and Black. The fourth one was what I thought was the most interesting, this last one, which is the behavior and timing. So back a long time electronic cash advocate was oddly absent. So this timing is sort of interesting. Oddly absent when Bitcoin first appeared, and then became deeply involved after Satoshi disappeared. So the timing bit on this article is sort of interesting. So there is lots of things that this article has gone through that I thought was a very new way, bringing new lens to look at how we can sort of parse all this data to figure out who it's. Obviously, this is not conclusive. So again, it's sort of fascinating to read. Where the article is weakest is essentially there is no direct proof, no moved coins, no private keys. I mean, that's probably the best way to write. If you can match to that key saying, hey, you are the creator. No authenticated admission. Obviously, Black will not admit. This article does not solve the Satoshi mystery, but what it does is, what very effectively is, move Adam back as one of the possible names behind this. So let me share this. Go check it out when you get time. This is really, really good. Good stuff. All right, those are the two main things I wanted to highlight. There is this notion now that, let me see if I can switch and share it without showing this. Now, since we're talking about Bitcoin, I thought it might be interesting to talk about this. And this sort of caused me a little bit of concern, because I do have few cryptocurrency, and I sort of believe in this idea. Safeguarding cryptocurrency by disclosing quantum vulnerabilities. So we talked about how Mythos is trying to save all the companies from the cybersecurity. Now we have to worry about another thing, which is quantum computing. Apparently, it turns out that Google is sort of slowing down their quantum research. And one argument could be made is that saying, wait a minute, the technology is moving really, really fast, and cryptocurrencies are the basis of encryption and cryptology that whole thing stands on is at risk. Is they are not quantum safe. So someone with obviously it's very theoretical right now. I don't know how much hardware or anyone has that hardware. Maybe Google does. With enough hardware thrown at this problem, anyone can break into your keys, and once they break into your sort of keys, then I mean, that's obvious what they can do with that, right? So that's essentially what this article is talking about. Now, the interesting thing about this though is that so Google's main message is very simple: that elliptical curve cryptography, right? Essentially, the whole public-private key model that we use to sort of manage these cryptocurrencies right now is not quantum safe. There are so we have a theory. I mean, most of us do believe this. I mean, this is beyond my capabilities here, guys. Obviously, I don't understand this in depth, but what I do understand from this is that enough the quantum this most of this cryptography of algorithms that we use are not quantum safe. So when you have throw enough hardware, they can break it. What that means is that given a public key, which is super easy to get, anyone's public key, that's why it's called public, a quantum algorithm could be devised. I think it's called Shor algorithm or something, that could reverse engineer a private key from the public key. Well, once I have the private key, I can, in theory, take that private key, initiate a transactions, and if my transaction goes through by all the mining, then I get your coins, right? That's the simple hack. That's the simple what Google is warning everybody that they want to stop. So which is probably a good thing, and the reason is that this is probably going to require a fundamental change in how we sort of deal with cryptocurrencies. I did see a paper which I thought was sort of interesting. Let me see if I can open this in here. Now, again, this is not like a full fail safe. Oh, this is gonna save it out. This is more like a patchwork for now. The good thing about this sort of quantum safe Bitcoin transaction with soft flow folks is that it can work with existing protocol. You don't have to upgrade your protocol to do that. The way it's essentially doing is that it's creating this. Let me look at note. It's creating this throwaway sort of disposable transaction key for every transaction you make using the what's the name here? Sorry, Lamport signature. So this Lamport signature is a one-time sort of throwable. It's not the whole spec here, but one of the key ingredient is use that key instead of the public-private key, which is not quantum safe. And Lamport's algorithms, Lamport signature is supposed to be considered quantum safe. And then on top of that, add sort of pinning puzzle to that, which does include a lot of work for every transaction. Which that means that probably going to increase the cost for transaction. So this is definitely not a scalable solution. But for the time being, there is some potential solutions out there to save your cryptocurrencies. So lots of interesting stuff happening on the crypto world as well, along with the AI, which I thought was maybe worth sort of going through. What else do we want to talk about? Great convergence of the product. This I wanted to, I don't know whether that's super interesting, but we can look into this for real quick. The reason this I bookmark it, that I know we getting into the point where most of our audience are sort of product engineers. So we as an engineers evolving, right? We are engineers who are living at the edge, right? But he talks about this fundamental convergence of all the product happening, which is, if you boil down all the noise, right, this fundamental level is just a core agent loop with a bunch of tools added to it. That's what every product is sort of trending towards, right? I mean, they're talking about how we're going to take a bunch of data, our knowledge, our secret sauce, connect to that MCP server tools or skills or what have you, and we have an agent loop. So any sort of request coming in, we do that. And this sort of which is going to be this architecture for all the software products that are going forward, essentially. Then this article essentially talks about the feedback loop, right? How much better. And we mentioned this a lot too. When the world where everybody can build, copy your idea, build product quickly, uh, the thing that's going to differentiate is your quality, whether your stuff works. That's why most of the agents, one was software development. Even if I use Claude a lot, I spend more time on verification and planning versus implementation. It's really, it's just sense now. That's not the secret. Secret is, do you have enough sort of evals? So that's sort of your secret sauce that you know that your product works. This sort of echoes that idea in here. Then let's jump into a couple of short stories in here. Let's go through some quick launches, see if there is something interesting we should talk about. Then we can wrap it up. All right, here is one. Also, Gemini 3.1. I don't like model releases anymore. Who cares? I'm getting to the point. I don't know about you guys. I'm getting to the point. It doesn't matter anymore. I mean, I think how you're building an experience on top of the model is probably where things gets different. I mean, yeah, it's crazy though how Anthropic's revenues are going up. It's just mind-boggling. I think they're making more money than OpenAI now. I think it's just wild. It's, finally, the legacy companies are catching up. Not interesting. Not interesting. JetBrain AI assistant. What do you guys think about IDEs? I mean, I think IDEs are sort of done, right? I mean, I'm not necessarily saying we don't look at the code. I mean, I do, but very rarely these days, to be honest with you. So in the world where we just chatting with our agents and planning and verifying whether it works or not, I mean, I really challenge this idea of an ID. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that interface is, I think, it's not there. It's conflicts with how we've been starting to operate with how do we build code these days. So I don't know. This vendor seems to figure it out. GitLab not interesting. Light LLM. The reason it popped up here, there's one dependency in Python, I think, that has a weird. This is what's getting weird. I mean, it's all the dependencies we're randomly downloading with the agents. This is one of the dependencies could have backdoor call home functionality. We would not know. Cybersecurity truly is becoming a huge concern. CLI anything? Okay, this one I thought was super cool, guys. Super cool. I mean, I totally see this being super valuable. So you know how we moving to an agentic world now, right? Where agents doesn't care about your fancy colors and buttons, right? They just care about the text and action. So that they more care about the semantic. So essentially, this CLI anything is making all software sort of agent native. I haven't played with this. This is sort of added to my to-do list. So they have a sort of a nice demo in here. They're using sort of draw.io maybe through CLI. So it's wrapping any UI or any app into a sort of CLI version. CLIs are making comeback in here. There was a demo in here. Where is that link? Sorry, give me a second in here. Which I thought that's a super cool. This repo is also gaining lots of popularities in here. Where is the demo? See demos. Okay, yeah. Yes, it's a draw a HTTP handshake diagram, and agent creates a full HTTP connection lifecycle diagram from scratch. TCP three. So it's actually using this to kind of draw this. What is this? Game automation agent plays through slave spine run through CLI, and now it's using CLI to play this RPG game. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this I thought was sort of interesting. I mean, it would be nice for me to have a sort of a CLI or sort of an MCP version of any app or any tool that I can sort of plug into my agent and automate that way. All right. So the last story I want to talk about would be the leak. It didn't happen this week. I think last week maybe. So yeah, we not been doing this post podcast for a while. Um, so accidentally, let me see if I can share my screen here. I made a post. I don't want to. I don't want to. Okay. I don't want to just do this in to share sort of what I'm posting here, but Claude Code by accidentally they released their source code. I think the way it happened is that they made an npm registry. They updated, pushed their product. I think npm package had a .map file or something, which accidentally exposed all the source code. Obviously, the first thing people did was that, oh, I'm going to take that and figure it out how Claude Code works. And people made lots of copies in here. So I captured few things that I thought was sort of interesting. One is obviously I cannot share that. The first thing that came to my mind was, wow, once I have the source code, I mean, it's a very well designed software, right? Claude Code is pretty good. I love Claude Code. The model is also really good, but what I thought is that just getting the software is not enough, because you need to still get access to the model, right? But then I realized, wait a minute, there is a Claude Code sort of distilled model out there in Hugging Face for free. This model right here. So in theory, somebody could take this accidentally exposed sort of Claude Code and point to this Claude distilled version, and you sort of got like a free cousin version of Claude Code running for you forever for free. Obviously, there is lots of copyright issues and all that. So another thing that's of notice, I didn't know this. Somebody took that, and this is the power of AI this day. Somebody took that, ran through code, I think Codex or some other model, converted the whole sort of JavaScript, TypeScript, Claude Code, source code to Python version, and called it Claude Code, I think. I don't know whether this is still around. Well, they're still around. They didn't take it down. Okay, yeah. So this is essentially Claude Code, but written in Python. The thing about this is that apparently this is not going to be part of the copyright. Will be considered a derivative product, I think, rewritten. So I don't think it violates any copyright and cannot be taken down. So it's still out there. So there is a free version of Claude Code written in Python, and if you can connect this to a free version of Distill Opus 4.6, there you go. You got something. So anyway, but what I found that's most interesting is that obviously people are finding lots of interesting stuff about that. And I've been guilty of doing this. The one thing I noticed was this funny is that, I mean, sometimes it gets frustrating. So I yell at the code, right? I yell at Claude Code, say nasty things sometimes. So I was wondering that how even that it actually doesn't change any behavior. So Claude Code has a regex in there that is just strips out all the nonsense and slangs that we say, but it does essentially logs them. So Anthropic knows if you are misbehaving. Another thing I thought was sort of interesting is anti-distillation mechanism. So obviously you cannot use Claude Code to train another Claude Code, because what they do is that, I thought this is next level stuff to protect your software these days, right? So if it detects anti-distillation, I think there's a logic of how many tokens you're trying to manipulate or reusing. So that triggers that flag. And then it will start to inject fake tools and strip out details. So you cannot take that output to learn or train your models. The memory architecture was really good. This is good stuff. If you're really building a multi-agent solution, this is something you really have to do. So worth reading this out. I'll share this note. I will add this show notes at the end. Let me go back in here. I like this. CC one verification. There was actually a verification. There was actually employee only flag in Claude Code. So somebody figured it out that you can sort of update your Claude.md file to essentially get the same behavior. I'll share my post link in here if you guys want to play with it. Anyway, that's it. I was thinking Derek going to make it here, but I'm sure something came up. Like I said, the but scheduling has been a bit of an issue. Um, so so that's our what? Where is my video? Seems to, I don't know how to hide. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I got so far. That's all I have for today. I just want to make sure I do something so that I don't get into the habit of not doing podcasts, because I capture all this stuff. There's so much stuff happening. So we'll get back to the rhythm. So I'm trying to figure out my schedule in here so that make sure at least every other week we do this post. But other than that, have a wonderful weekend. Ping us, let us know any question, any other topic we should cover. Have a wonderful day. Bye.